Hi everybody, welcome back to my Design Basics series. This is part 2. Today we're going to talk about value and scale in your paper. And I have made this little sample. It is just a little 6x6 with 2 flaps, the kind of thing you might see in any mini album. If you're not making mini albums, you can still apply these same theories. So here we have our paper. And we're going to talk about how the choices that we make affect how our page ultimately looks in terms of the scale of the designs that we use, the types of the designs that we use, the value of the color that we use. And I'm going to show you a quick example, and then we're going to look at some paper, and I'm going to show you some albums. So I've picked some papers for this page. These are all from the Prima Lavender collection, and as you can see, I've got a white cardstock here, and then we have these 2 mats. Let's put this one and this one, and these are beautiful papers, all from, as I said, the Prima Lavender collection, and as you can see, these choices don't do a lot for this. The reason for that is they're all the same value. They're all light. The scale of the prints is very close. This one's a little bigger, but for the most part, they're all of the same scale, all the same value. It's very similar prints. There's just not a lot happening here, right? So this is an example of how, now, this may be the look you're going for, and if it is, that's great. But if it's not, and you're wondering, why does my page look so boring? Well, it's because there's no variety here. Now, the designers of our collections, and we're going to look at some collections, know how to mix up scale and variety and value, and your collection will almost always have the full choice you need to get a good look. You just need to play with it until you get what you want or be aware of it. And within a single book, it's essential pretty much that you have something that's light, something that's dark, and by dark I mean dark, not darker than your light. You really need some depth of color most of the time, and then some medium, and then the same you need with scale. You need small print, large print, medium print, and mix up your patterns, like so it's not all flowers, that you've got some flowers, some geometric, some little spots, something like that. And you'll see that it does make a big difference. And again, these are guidelines, not rules or laws. You do what works for you. All right, so let's look again at this. All right, so it's all very blah, right? Well, what if we tried it on a darker background? Maybe that's the problem, right? So, okay, well, right away, it's looking better, right? Let's pull this one out, put it there. All right, well, now that dark blue helped quite a bit. And I don't know, let me pull the white back in. And I'm gonna pull this one out. If you notice on this mat, we've got a little bit of almost a pinky purpley color, but it's not very visible on this paper. But once we transferred it to this paper, it popped quite a bit more. You see that? This page is still, nothing in particular to write home about, though, is it? It's still kind of, So let's see if we were to turn that over. Okay, well, that's more interesting. And let's turn that over. It goes like that. Does it go like that? I'm not sure. Anyway, okay, that's a lot more interesting. What if we turned this one over also? I think you'll be surprised, or maybe not. It looks good, but it lost something because when we turned it over, we lost that large, light, soft scale to offer contrast to these pieces. Do you see the difference? let's look at it again. So here it is with these two turned over. We've got a large scale, medium scale, we've got light, medium, and dark. If we turn this over, which is beautiful, it's just not as good. And actually this one, tuck this one under there, how's that? Still not as good, right? You need this light place for your eyes to rest so that you can appreciate these other papers. And let's pull in the white. Let's say you wanted still to be using white. It still works like this, but because you've lost that quite dark element, it's not quite as vivid. But it looks okay because there's quite a bit of dark in this print. If I bring this over, you can see the colors pop more on the dark background. All right, so then the other thing, let's try it. Let's play with it. Let's go back to the blue. Suppose that you just really love that and you want that. Then maybe the thing to do would be, maybe leave that one, to leave one of these upright. I don't care for that one. Let's try that. Or even both of them, actually. Doesn't look bad because you've got something a little better there. So you can see it makes quite a bit of difference. And I want to show you, I've got some paper lines we're going to look at, but I also want to show you some albums to talk a little bit about paper choice. So I've got this one. I don't know if I can fit them all in the camera. And I've got this one. Okay, so picture those two in your head. And then we have this one. And the reason, I'm trying to get all of them in here. The reason I'm showing you these three albums, right? These three albums were all made from the same paper collection. These two were made almost exclusively from that paper collection. This one, I added another paper collection. They look completely different from one another, right? And I want to show you this one first. So let me pull this in. This was made from a design by Genevieve Designs. Jennifer Harris at Genevieve Designs. And I'm trying to remember, I think it's Stack the Pages. I think it's her Stack the Pages album. Let me see, I'm trying to look at the binding. Hang on. Yeah, Stack the Pages. So you can see everything here is quite light, but picture this cover without this black. Okay. Not quite as interesting, although these dark edges on the tags help. Okay. This album is very much a light, sort of tone-on-tone album. This is tied shut normally. With everything, or almost everything, in the same value. But there are a few little, like this dark butterfly, the dark edges on the papers. So this is a look, that's why I said there may be a time you want a look that just doesn't have a lot of different value changes, and that's fine if that's what you're going for, and that's what this is. But there are a few little, like here I've gone into a large scale, there's gold. This uses the, by the way, the paper collection I'm referring to is Mariposa from Die Cuts with a View. This particular album uses it, here it is, in conjunction with a 49 and Market paper, which I can't remember which one it is, but and here you can see now, here's something much darker, so that adds a little depth to this particular page. We've got a medium tone here that adds. And again, everything here is very, very light, very subtle, but when you open it, all of a sudden you're getting some hints of dark and medium tones within, right? This flips. And this pocket has this, but now we have just this one insert in this deep burgundy color. Whoops, knock my tag out. Just adds so much interest. And it still goes. It doesn't clash. It doesn't look out of place, but it adds a whole lot of interest to the album. And then here we get to the back, and we've got this little hint of color and some tones. So there's not huge tone variation in this album, but it's very pretty. But it has scale changes. It has small prints. It has large prints. It has the metallic. It has the dark edges. And that's what makes it much more interesting than when we had done this white, 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 where everything was the same scale and there was nothing to offset it. Everything was the same value. So again, here's a large scale with the gold, a very large scale here, a large here against this little small geometric. So you can see you don't have to, when I say that you need to have variety, I don't mean that you need, you know, in-your-face circus colors, you know, black. Just be aware that you add some little touch of dark, some little touch of large scale. So now, let me show you this one, which is the exact same pattern, I believe. This may be Stack the Pages also, I'm not sure. It looks bigger to me. But these are both Genevieve designs. I just can't remember which one this is. Very different from the book we just looked at. But you can see here's, you know, a paper that we used a lot in the other one. The same black from the cover. But here, just even on this one page, we've got a very light to a very dark, a large scale, medium scale, small scale prints, a variety of color, and it makes it very interesting to look at. Again, this is quite light, but with the very dark tag. Here again, and you know, we may talk about, I may do another video on color, but orange and blue are complementary colors. Peach counts as an orange. So here we have blue, we have orange. They're complementary. They're going to look nice together. Got this very large scale butterfly, sort of a tone on tone. This is a large scale bird cage, but because it's tone on tone, it doesn't play quite such a large scale print. With this much smaller medium scaled print. Here again, super large scale on this butterfly with this tone on tone print, and then just a very light print here and a small scale on the black. So you get the idea. Again, we have the large scale, much smaller. This folds out. So I hope this sort of gives you an idea. Like, this paper was just so spectacular that all I did was put this little tuck and a couple of little tags. All right, here we have a small little tone on tone with this gigantic in-your-face red butterfly. We have light, dark, small scale, tone on tone, with the large scale tag tucked in. I'm not going to pull it out, but all right. So hopefully that gives you another idea. Now let's look at the same paper one more time. This book. These butterflies I made from cutting out, fussy cutting them out from the paper, and these are Prima flowers. And again, this is Die Cuts with a View Mariposa for the paper. So it has, this one has a much more similar look to the one we just looked at. But this one, of course, is on a black background. And this is just a paper clip I made with one of the Prima flowers. Right? And this flips up. you see the variety? Light, dark, and this one, because of the dark background, is a little bit more leeway in terms of choosing light and dark, because your dark's already there with the background. But you can see, even though it's the same paper, this book has a very different feel from the one we just looked at previously, right? All right, so let me pull that back. As far as I know, this Mariposa seems to be a constant in the die cuts with view line. I see it a lot. You should be able to get it with a coupon at you know, your big box craft store. I believe I got it at Joann's, I want to say. Do be aware when you buy that one, I mail ordered it and I got it from Joann's. I've had 2 or 3 versions of it. And one of the pads comes with a glittery cover and one of them doesn't. And I like the one with the glittery cover, so then I can use that glitter. It doesn't really matter. All right, so this is another die cuts with a view paper. It's called Wildflower. And we can see right here on the front without flipping through it if we, pardon me. These are representations of the papers. The designers who create these paper lines are very well aware that you need variety of tone, you need variety of scale, and they work them into your paper collections. So you should be able, if you're working with a single paper collection, as long as you use all the papers and choose your papers wisely, you won't have any trouble meeting sort of that need for variety. Let's look. So right off the bat, we have a large scale light print. And then on the back, a tone on tone, also light. These are cut aparts. And even the cut aparts have dark ones, medium ones, light ones. Now here is this yellow is a medium tone, but a small print. It's a light tone, medium scale print. Then we have a medium scale, medium print, medium tone in color with a medium print. And I found when I've taught in the past that people will look at a paper like this one and think it's dark, but it's not dark. This would be medium, okay? This is light, this is dark. You see the difference? Now, it doesn't have to be black to be dark, but this would be a dark. Even though it has a lot of light on it, this would be your dark. And then if we compare, hold that back. All right, can you see both of these papers? Okay, they're the same color, so they're both a medium tone. But this one is a small scale print, whereas this one's more of a medium almost a large scale print, right? So they're going to give you a very different look when you put it down, and that's something to bear in mind, okay? That you want both. You don't want all small scale, you don't want all large scale, you need a variety. And now we have a stripe to add textural interest. Okay. And maybe you don't like a stripe, but that's fine. You should still have something that's different. Like a whole page that's all flowers is not going to be as interesting as if you put in a small, a polka dot, a stripe, a plaid, something a little bit geometric or a little bit different. Okay, speaking of, here's another stripe, and you can see, okay, let's look at this. Okay, so we have this pretty watercolor floral, and they've put it right next to this stripe. Same colors that are in here, right? And it looks really nice together, right? So let's go back to the beginning. I didn't pull these out, so they're all still in the stash. Okay, well, if we put these side by side as mats, okay, it's pretty, they go together, but it's not as interesting as if you had put this with this. Do you see that? Adding this stripe rather than, you know, a very similar floral is much more interesting. Oops, sorry, hit a light. Okay, and then here, again, this is, I would call this medium dark. It's still not dark, but it's much darker. And depending on how light what you're putting it next to is, it'll play dark or light. It looks nice. And then now we're getting into this green value, which is fairly dark. Again, these two I would call not quite dark, but almost, as compared to, where was that one we were looking at earlier? This is that one. See, just a tiny bit darker than this, but not as dark as that. And then here's another large scale print, which could play medium or dark, kind of depending which you put it up against. And now we're getting into a couple of geometrics. I don't know if you can see, this one is all gold foiled. It's so cute. Here we have a geometric, which again, put it up against this floral, it looks great. But let's take, these two, they're okay, but they're not, I mean, they're beautiful papers, but together, alone, without anything else, not so much. But suppose all three of these, I really probably should have pulled this up in the album. But if we take these two together, this and this, they're okay. But if we pull this back, and now we add that floral into the mix, can you see it? Oh gosh, I hope you can see it. Now you've got something much more interesting. You see that? All right. Again, same here. If you just look at these two pages, if you look at this one alone, just this, it's very pretty. Add in this dark green, and it really pops. And again, large scale light, some light tone on tones, medium geometrics. So really, really look at your papers and be aware of both sides, or if they're single sides, be aware of all of the papers. Sometimes there's a knee-jerk reaction to go through and say, oh, I don't like certain color, or I don't like a certain type of print, and just pull them out and set them aside. When that may be, even if it's not your favorite, and even if you don't love it, it may be the one paper that's going to make your book sing. So I'm going to grab another paper collection to look at, because it kind of speaks a little bit to what I was just saying. This is Flutter from Graphic 45. Let me get the sticker sheet out of the way. We don't need that. All right, so one thing you're always going to find with Graphic 45 is spectacular large-scale prints. And I think if you're afraid of them, you're probably not buying Graphic 45, but maybe you are. But again, large-scale print, right? Light, bright, very pretty. And on the back is sort of a medium tone, also largish scale. So let me put these side by side. Right, I don't think anybody would have any trouble using either of these papers, right? Okay, so here is much more medium tone, large scale, much more in your face, floral, which might be intimidating for people who don't like working with large prints. But it's beautiful. And then we get to the back here, and these are bees. It's a geometric print, and it's beautiful. Guess that's the same one. Okay, I'll be the first to admit I'm not a huge fan of bugs or beetles, and this is not my favorite paper, but I'll almost certainly still use it when I use this collection because it's so visually interesting. It's going to add a lot to my book. Tone on tone, very dark. Same thing, it's going to add, just looking at these two together, you can see the depth this adds. Here's our same large print in the pink, but on the back is a tone on tone stripe. Again, these two together look great. This print will add a jolt of interest, even though you look at it and think, oh, it's tone on tone stripe, whatever. But when you mix it with these extremely bold, bright prints, this becomes the restful spot, right? And And we have the black. Again, put it up against this kaleidoscope of butterflies, which it's on the other side of. And you can see it tones this down a little bit. Whereas if you had taken this print, hang on, let me grab it. So here we have a small scale print and a large scale print. One's kind of geometric, one's floral. Do they go together? Absolutely they go together. Does one benefit the other at all? No. Neither one of these is popping because they're next to each other. Whereas with this one, or this one, or the stripe, all of a sudden they are helping each other. And that's what you're looking for, papers that will help each other out. See, I'm flipping these around and over so you can sort of see how they look when you start putting them together, right? And these are cut aparts, but it's got this pretty green on the back. And we've got this nice yellow, tone on tone, with this huge print on the back. Now, let's look again at a same example. Let's see if I can find one. Oh, there we go. This works a little better because this is so dark, but again, they don't, let's see if I can, let's move some of these papers. Let these stand on their own. They look great. They're beautiful, beautiful papers, right? However, using just these two on a page would not necessarily work. I mean, it'll look great because they're beautiful papers. It's going to look great. But just turn that over and now I've got a contrast. I've got a contrast in scale. I've got a contrast in value. This paper looks much better than it did here, in my personal opinion. Right? Same here. Right? So that's what I'm talking about when I say you really need that variety. And as another example, I'm going to pull another Graphic 45 collection. This is an older collection. I feel bad because you won't be able to get this. Well, you may, but you'll have to pay on second market prices for it. This is Safari Adventure from Graphic 45. And I've got both pads here. This is the patterns and solids, and I strongly recommend, if they're available, you buy them whenever you buy a Graphic 45 collection, because they will help you with what I'm just talking about with value and scale, and just give you more to work with. But I want you to look at this. I hope you can you see it? This line, maybe if I turn it this way, here, okay? This line is drawn from all of the prints. These are the colors that are used in the collection, and of course they're the colors that are on the backs of these papers. You can see it goes from dark, medium, light, okay? You've got your range here. And you can see here that this collection, I'm not opening these because I have never actually taken the sticker off, has your geometrics, mainly medium scale, but some large, in light, medium, and dark. Okay? This will help you when you're working with this collection, which has the same things, but to a lesser degree, because this is so dramatic. So it's going to be hard for me to get this, and I'm going to turn it a little to the side. Amazing, large print. And just within this one print, though, we can see, let me grab a pointer. Not that one. Hang on. Okay, so in this print, we have very, very dark. We have the black all the way to white. So just this one print is demonstrating a lot of what we talked about. We have some small scale, right? We have larger, much larger scale, right? We have flowers, we have spots, we have stripes. It's a perfect example. It's beautiful. And then on the back, we have this medium scale animal print, as opposed to this much larger overall scale print. And now we're getting to this large, medium, somewhere in the middle scale print. Lots of dark, lots of light within the same print. Overall, it gives sort of a medium feel, right? Medium to dark. And then we have this tone on tone, which, as you can see, when I had these two papers, obviously it's the same paper, so you're not going to get variety. But you introduce this into the mix, and it makes it pop. And now we have a much different style of print, but of course it still goes, even though, you know, it's not animals, it's not flowers, but it goes. It's light, it gives a geometric feel because of all the text. Very pretty, and now we have a stripe. So now we've had a big floral, a medium floral, this little small geometric floral. Now we have a stripe. So you can see where they're working everything through. Now they've taken something similar to our original large, you know, hero print and taken it down to a medium scale with less of the dark. This is much more medium toned. And this has text on the back that reads as a geometric. Now we have an all over print. This is going to read as light or dark depending what it's next to. This is obviously a very dark print. Medium, large print. I would call that largish print, but much lighter. Right against something very dark. And then we have something very light geometric on the back of that one. And a stripe. And this stripe is a good example. Notice it's got these white zebras. Picture this print without those, and it would be much less interesting. It would all sort of blend together. And then we have our tiger stripe, extremely large scale map. But this is a large scale map only if you cut this large. If you were to cut a piece out of here, now you've got a small scale print. So be aware of that, right? If we cut, you know, if you cut a piece, even the whole thing, 12 by 12, it's a large scale print, right? But if you cut a 4-inch square using, you know, this area, now you've got a small scale print. And we've got a tone on tone on the back of that. We've got these elephants. These are going to read as a geometric. And more cut aparts with another small tone on tone print. And now we have another large scale, large to medium, depending how you cut it, scale print. And you can see it right, hopefully you can see it. So we have this small tone on tone, and then we go right into this much larger scale print with yet another scale on the back. And you can, let me put this over. Okay, so you could put these two together on a page, and you do have variety of scale. I would call that probably a light in the context of this collection, and this one's veering into the medium scale. It's not bad, right? But flip it over, and you've got this much more interesting combination, especially if you put all three of them together. And I think that's what I'm trying to sort of convey is all of these papers are beautiful. No matter what you make with them, they're going to be beautiful. But make sure you look carefully at both sides of the paper. And, you know, if I tend to fall on I always want to use what I consider the A side of the paper, the sort of big, splashy, gorgeous papers. And I hate to cut them and not use them because I used something that was on the back. But you really have to. Make sure you use both sides. All right. So I'm going to pull out our little sample again and just show you once more, just so it's clear in your head. Okay, so lost one more answer. There it is. Okay. So this is what we were talking about at the beginning, where we had our light. So now that we've looked at some papers, it might be clearer in your head what I was talking about. So again, here I've used the B-side of all of the papers from the Prima collection, the lavender, on a white background. It's fine, it's pretty, the papers are pretty. If you want to make sure nothing shows except your pictures that you're going to put on here, nothing detracts, fine, that's the way to go. But if you want the page itself to have some interest, just by putting it on the dark background and adding that dark element, and then changing out your mats, and I didn't even change out the mats, I just flipped them over to the other side of the paper, which is what I was just talking to you about, is making sure you use both sides. Now we've got something much more interesting, in my opinion. Okay, so I hope that helps. If you have any questions about this process or just want to jump in and discuss, please comment down below. And if you've enjoyed this video in the series, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next video. There is a playlist for this. I believe it's called the Design Basics playlist. I can't remember, but I think it is. Can't miss it. Just go check my playlists and you'll find it. And I'll be doing more of these videos because the first one got a good response, and hopefully you'll enjoy this one. And we'll talk again about another topic next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.